The Runaway Ribbed Cap is a pure classic. Featuring the stretchy 1x1 rib, it fits comfortably snug, yet the fold-up brim doubles over the ears to keep the wearer toasty warm. The companion pattern includes sizes for all, men, women, and children. Follow the link in the description below. But in this video, you will learn the techniques for both knitting and easy finishing. But the bonus is how the pattern got its name. Watch closely as you set up the machine once and just run away with multiple caps all in one long string. But for now, let's begin. With my every other needle pusher, I'm going to find the 50th needle on the main bed on the left. And I'm going to pull up every other needle all the way down to number 49. Then on the river, I'm going to go find my 49th. Now I'm set at P3, which means the needles will not hit each other, and I'm doing a 1x1 rib. Okay? So I'm going to pull up every other needle. I'm going to go to number 48 on this side because I want the main bed to have the end needles on both ends. My ribber is hooked up, but it's not threaded. I'm going to carefully run across the bed just to align the needles so I don't have to worry about any collisions. I can do it very slowly. And there. Now I'm going to set my row counter to 0, and I'm going to set my carriages. I'm going to put that down just so you can see a little bit better. I'm going to set the main carriage to 0 tension, and it's knit in both directions. If you have a different kind of bulky, then do look at your manual because we're doing a circular cast on. My ribber is now set to 0, and I'm in knit in both directions. I'm going to thread up with my main yarn, and I'm going to leave about a 10-inch tail. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take one pass to the left. That's going to put a nice zigzag row across the needle. See how it made a zigzag? At which point, I'm going to reach over and get my rubber cast-on comb, and the teeth of it are going to come up right between the zigzags. I'm going to thread the wire through the little opening. Once you get through the first couple, you can just twirl it a little bit and it just threads right through and onto the pin. On this end, there's a little hook-like end on this. You want to push that all the way so the wire's all the way in, and then fold it down to the front. It won't get snagged up. Now I'm going to put a little bit of weight on this for now. On the carriage, I'm going to click up my tension to 1 on both the main bed and the ribber. On the ribber, I'm also going to put it into partial knitting going this direction because I only want to knit the back rows. I'm doing a circular cast on. So if you have a different machine, check your manual for it. And in this case, it'll just knit on the back bed. Very good. Now, I'm going to flip back to partial on my main bed, on my main carriage. So I'm on partial knitting. Once again, if you have a different machine, do a different thing. We're leaving the tensions the same, and we're leaving the front bed the ribber exactly the same way as we had before. And we're taking another pass to the left. Now, we're going to put the main carriage back into plain knitting, which is knit in the direction. This one is not going to knit because that is still in its place. I'm going to knit one more row there. It's only going to knit the main bed. So I'm going to crank up my ribber to tension 5. I'm going to crank up my main bed carriage to tension 5, and I'm going to release the partial knitting on the ribber so that it's in knit. So everything will get another zigzag row on the next row. And I'm going to just take one more pass. I've just completed my circular cast on. Now I'm going to show you another tool that I use when ribbing. These are 7s and help the edge stitches knit off. See how each is shaped like the numeral 7? You can hang a weight from the loop at the end. Place these on each end of the knitting pointing inward so that the upper part is across the edge stitches and between the beds. Then hang the weight from underneath. Now we're ready to knit the cap. And so I'm just going to knit until my row counter reaches 60. Now I've reached about row 26 right now, and I just wanted to point out that every so often you may want to move up your 7s so that the edge stitches have a little more tension on them. So I've just completed my 60 rows. So now we're going to shape the crown of this particular hat. So starting on the right hand side, I'm going to pull up the second from the end to hold position, only on the main bed. Skip 3, 1 up, skip 3, 1 up, skip 3, 1 up. All the way across the row. If you're doing this and you accidentally don't count properly, no worries. It'll come out just fine. With the double-eyed bodkin, transfer the stitches from the needles in hold on the main bed to a neighboring needle in work on the ribber bed. I chose the needle to the left, but you could transfer to the right also. Whatever you choose, stick with it throughout. Make sure to push the empty needles on the main bed to the out-of-work position. Now, I'm going to take my needle pusher and just make sure that I've got them all down. And I'm also looking at my patterning because there should be 3 in a row next week. Though, here's one I missed. Did I miss that one? Oh no, I miscounted. Ah! Just leave it there. Up until now, adequate weight kept the ribbing perfectly formed. But now, since I have skipped stitches on the main bed, I am adding the pressers, just to make sure. So I'm going to knit 4 rows. So now I'm going to go to my groups of 3 stitches, pull up the end stitch of the groups of 3. When I get to the 4th one, I'm just going to pull that one up and leave 3. It's not going to matter. That's what makes this a beautiful little pattern. Now I'm going to transfer these to the left onto the ribber beds. Okay? Beautiful. Beautiful. And I'm going to knit 4 more rows. Now I'm going to cut my yarn, and I'm going to leave myself about a 15-inch yarn tail for seaming. I want to pull that down and put a little clip on it just so it doesn't light up on me. Now I'm going to get my waste yarn and put a clip on it and thread up my machine. Put my main bed in partial and knit across. This will only knit the front bed. Now I'm going to put my main bed back into plain. It's just the way this machine works, and put the right lever on the ribber into partial knitting. So it'll only knit the back bed. And you say, why am I doing that? Spoiler alert! Circular knitting helps make finishing easier later. Now I'm going to switch my tension back to 0 on both beds. I'm going to put it in knit in both directions. I have my ribber already set up. My ribber has the weights on it. I'm going to move my 7s up. All my needles are pretty much counted off for me. So I'm just going to pull up the ones that I took out of work. So I'm back to an every other needle configuration. On the back bed, just want to bring them up so they're even with the other needles, and I want to make sure I end with 49, which I know is right there because I left that one untouched. On the front bed, I already have all my needles in place. So I just switch back to 0 and 0, and I also need to switch my yarn. So I'm going to cut my waste yarn off and let it fall down. I don't need a lot of scrap on that. Pick up my main yarn and thread up my machine. I have myself set up so it'll be at the first zigzag row. So let's do it. And there's my zigzag row. Switch it up to 1, switch it up to 1, put this one in partial, and knit back. So by doing that, it knit the main bed. Now I can put it in partial so it knits the front bed only. And this is where I want to move my 7s back up. Go back to here, knit the back bed. So now I have 4 rows on here, so I'm going to reset my row counter and put it in knit, flip up to tension 5 on the main bed and on the ribber. I'm all set, ready to go, and knit until row counter 60. So we just ran away with the ribbed cap. So I've just knit another hat, and they're running together. And I want you to see this. Under my knitting machine, here I have my first hat. Here's the second half. I need to do the shaping on this hat and take it off on waste yarn. But if my cast-on comb hits the floor, it's not putting any tension on it. So all you have to do is roll it up like so and take, this is a clip, a real heavy-duty clip. You can get it at the hardware store, or these are some photo clips, and just hang it. And you'll be surprised how much weight that is going to add. Now, we're at the shaping point. So I'm leaving the last needle on the right-hand side, this one right here, in work. And I'm taking every 4th needle out. Now, I goofed up on the last one. I didn't count right. But that's okay, because it works out just fine. Just like before, complete the shaping. Then, switch to waste yarn and circular knitting to take the final hat in the string off the machine. But make sure to knit several extra rows. As you can see, when the runaway caps are removed from the machine, they are in one long line separated by waste yarn. The inside of the cap has been reduced to 1/4 of the total rib stitches, and the outside has half of them. Now let's secure the crown stitches and separate the caps. Cut 2 pieces of yarn for each cap, about twice the width of the unstretched cap. Starting on the inside and with the first piece of yarn, catch the loops of the knit stitches as they face you on the last row along the waist knitting. It is quick work off the machine, but make sure to catch each loop. Do not close the crown yet, but tie the ends together, leaving a large loop. Flip the cap so the outside is now facing you, and repeat the process on this side with the second piece of yarn. Tie the ends together, leaving another long loop. Once the crown stitches are secured on all the caps, remove the waist knitting and separate the caps. The yarn tails at the beginning and end of the rows will be used to seam the cap. First, align the selvage edges with the right side facing out. Measure about 4 to 4.5 inches from the brim edge and pin the edges together at this point. This marks the fold line for the brim. With the right side facing out, begin at the crown and work down to the marker. For this section, I like to use a whip stitch method to join the edges. Here's how. So, back to this side, I come back and catch the next bump on that side, or bar, technically, and the next one over here. Come back here, the next bar, and the next one over here. Now, it's up near where this is falling, but it's right there. Then back over to here, the next one here, and one over here. One here, and one here. So I'm just going down this, just whip stitching this together. I'm going to continue all the way down from the crown to the marker. Then we're going to reverse and do the same thing with the inside facing. I'll meet you then. Now it's time to close the crown. With the right side facing you, pull the long loop along the outside edge. Trim off the knotted end. Use the yarn tails to reinforce and secure the top of the crown. Then turn the cap inside out, pull up the long loop on the inside to close the crown for a second time. Trim the knot off and use the ends to reinforce and secure the inside layer of the double-decker crown. By dividing the stitches into 2 layers, the crown is quite flat. So once you've trimmed the inside, all you have to do is turn it inside out. Now here's our seam, and you just fold up that brim. And you have just made a unisex hat. Depending on the colors you want to set aside and how you want them to look, that's what you've made. Now, of course, you can always add a machine knit pom-pom to the top. Always a fun thing to do. And I happen to have a spare one laying around. Boop. I hope you enjoyed watching the Runaway Ribbed Cap. Please take a moment to subscribe and ring the bell to receive notifications of upcoming videos and events. Happy machine knitting!